Welcome to Exposing the Hidden Reality. I'm Annette, career reinvention coach and caffeine-powered human.
And I'm Sandra, women's life and leadership coach. I bring the woo to our conversations.
And this is the podcast where we call out all the unspoken stuff, biases, outdated expectations, and all the things women navigate in work and in life.
Yes. We bring to light what we see happening. Smart, capable women stuck in the same patterns because no one really talks about what's going on.
We'll bring some difficult truths.
Welcome, insightful experts.
And sprinkle in a little chaos and fun.
It wouldn't be us if we didn't, right?
It's true.
So whether you're walking the dog or tuning in during your commute, we're glad you're here. Let's do this.
Let's do this. You want to do the let's do this together? Like 3, 2, 1, let's do this. All right, 3, 2, 1. Let's
do this.
Yay, we did it. I feel like hitting the go live is just one of those miraculous things. Every time something happens, I'm like, this is a miracle. It's amazing.
It worked.
It worked. Oh my gosh. Well, we are so lucky to welcome Sarah Stray here with us today. And Sarah, I would love if you just introduce us to yourself, tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Yes. I feel like I first want to say, how are we going to bring the chaos and fun that was mentioned in that intro? I feel like I want to be mischievous with you after that. So that's my preface. Nothing to do with me or my business. Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm the owner of Boxless Coaching. And after many, many years in the not-for-profit world, I started waking up spiritually and was led very miraculously, as miraculous as pressing the live button, to the Akashic Records. And we'll talk about what they are. And so I'm an Akashic Record healer, energy worker, and I bring that into the life coaching modalities that I do, helping women through that liminal in-between space so that they can live boxlessly, which is just a fun way of saying, okay, you can be your most authentic soul, divine you in every moment. And yes, there's a lot hidden and a lot of hidden boxes that people just never learned how to navigate themselves. So that's what Boxless is all about in a nutshell.
Oh, I like that. Because I was going to ask where the boxless comes from. And I'm like, maybe it's a done for you thing. But no, I like that you're saying you don't have to live inside of somebody else's preconceived box.
No, absolutely. And boxes keep our brains safe. You could use Boxless as an analogy for programming or conditioning or all of those things that we pick up that we're individually and collectively hooked into, kind of not through our choice, and that run under the surface of things. And once you notice them, then you can expand your box infinitely.
I like that. I really do. Yeah, when I was reading a little bit about you, Sarah, you were talking about these collective burdens that women carry. And I was hoping you could talk about that.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So, one thing that happens when you're an Akashic Record healer is you're in many different people's Akashic Records. So, you ask for consent and it's a one-on-one reading. And yet often what you find as the root cause for what's blocking them or, whatever it is relationally that they want to work on in their lives, oftentimes it is not just individual. And so what I see is there are inherited burdens that come from both parents, or sometimes it comes totally just down the mother line, right? We've been living in a patriarchy for thousands and thousands of years. And so that playing smallness absolutely can be running through your ancestry. Not to mention, there's a lot of past lives that we all have had, and that shows up in our present lives without us knowing it. And so, a lot of women, what I see is, when they might be having trouble, like getting visible for their business, for example, and they feel nervous when they're posting on Instagram, or small or confused, or it's just not flowing right and easily. Um, Most things will just tell you like all the strategy work of how to move through that. But if the real reason you're not comfortable and safe being a public face of something is because you've got a persecution wound, because somewhere in your past life, like you literally were shamed or ridiculed or killed for speaking your truth, then that absolutely is playing on in the background. So women carry a lot of like big collective burdens, especially around not easily stepping into being heard and seen. That's something I see a lot.
Mm.
What about you guys, Annette? Do you see that kind of thing in your clients?
I see that we often don't see until later that
Mhm.
there's something either culturally that's keeping us small or down, or we're giving in to a cultural norm, maybe at our new workplace,
Oh,
that doesn't
absolutely.
really fit us very well. So I do see that. And Sandra, you could probably talk about what you see as well. Yeah.
Yes, I see this a lot.
A lot.
And this is exactly this. What you're speaking about here is one of the problems I have when we encounter what I call shaming marketing online. Like,
Mhm.
oh, just switch your mindset, or you have a bad mindset, or, you're holding yourself back. And the reality is, trauma comes in so many different forms. And to whether and I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about what the Akashic Records are in a moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But my personal issue is, okay, look, some people don't believe in this stuff. It's too much woo for them. And I'm totally okay with that. So let's
Yeah.
take that off the table for a moment and just say, there's trauma, period. You have no idea what's happened to that person before they showed up in front of you today. And to say something like, oh, you're holding yourself back, or this is just a mindset thing, or, you're just not thinking about the situation properly, is so harming and so shameful, that really it's so unhelpful. And so I always like to tell my
Yeah.
clients, look, you know what? Believe it, don't believe it, I don't care, but at least give yourself the grace to know that wherever you are, you got there because it was a survival skill you learned.
Mhm.
And if you learned a survival skill, there were reasons for it. So let's take a step back and figure out where that's coming
And
from.
I think you touched upon a couple of key things. Like one is giving yourself grace always is so important. And so
Yes.
if you're ever moving through something and it's getting tricky, like turning back inward and giving yourself grace for that experience is absolutely a beautiful way through it. Because we would have done it already, the mindset
Exactly.
work, the getting ourselves unstuck, if that was the real issue. And so it's absolutely plays into that belittling narrative, and women get shamed so much and so
Yes.
often. Before we went live, we were talking about Sandra and I have similarly aged children. It is in school,
Oh, yeah.
right? Unconscious conditioning that teachers have, or that is embedded in the curriculum, that is shaming women. Um, if you're not aware that you've, grown up within that, or it's in the, collective consciousness of the place or the country. So I brought my I thought this would be an appropriate mug for today, even though I live in a state of grace and really don't want to fight anything energetically anymore. You can still have a good mug to micro message, what you really still want to happen.
Yeah. And before we go to the Akashic Records, before we go to Akashic Records, I just want to pick up on something you just said, because I think it's so relevant and important right now. So there are things that get me very angry and very worked up about the way the world is today.
Yes.
Things that I think shouldn't be that way. I work really hard to not confront that with anger or pushback. I try really hard to work on just allowing that to wash over me and flow through, because I feel like when we push against it, we make it bigger, kind of like when the ocean hits
You're
the
absolutely right. And there's so much fear patterning right now running through everything that by putting that push and energy into it, you're actually feeding the collective fear. So it's much healthier to step back from it, be neutral about it. And you can do that at the same time is still caring and still speaking the truth of, it is true we are in a patriarchy, and it is true that we can all use our truth and voices to speak our truths in whatever it is that we want to see the change in the world. And you can do that without that fight energy.
Yeah, it's hard to do, but I think it's really important, and you touched on it, and I didn't want to lose it.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
So talk to us about Akashic Records.
Akashic Records are, I'll start with the metaphor that everybody kind of uses to help wrap our brains around it. And it's the library of your soul. And so it is within the quantum field. And so for those that are not in the woo field, when you step into the quantum, it is basically the infinite field of everything is possible, is the way I think of it. Healing work happens like this when you're in the quantum. And so that's something a little different about the modality, maybe compared to some other things people use to help themselves, is it's instant. And so the Akashic Records, it's the information arm of source, again, kind of a woo term, but basically it's a field of energy that you can, through like vibrational access prayer, you can move your consciousness there and then read the records, which means that you can ask anything. You can ask about your soul's purposes. You can ask about your soul contracts, like relationships with partners, children, spouses, even relationships with businesses. As I transitioned from full-time work and burnout, I had to unhook energetically from many of those energies that I was in that old job that weren't healthy. So you can ask anything and receive divine truth of an answer, and then you take it back to the root cause of when that first showed up and clear it instantly. So yeah, I'm a completely different human than when I first found the records.
And what brought you to the records, Sarah?
Great question.
That's a great question. Maybe I'll answer that in a woo way and a non-woo way. And so the woo way is you don't get brought to them. Like they call to you, right? So if I were to ask my Akashic Records now, it would be like, well, it is everyone's birthright to be able to read the Akashic Records and work in the quantum to help everyone ascend. And the records were seated in me and my DNA since birth and always there latently for me to go on the path of reading them should I choose. Also, I got really burnt out really hard in my last job. And so I had been an energy recipient for many, many years. I had seen a biofield tuner. And so I was kind of in a slow and methodical way in the background of my life, really unlocking myself energetically until I did resign from my career and then needed a lot of open space just to recover from that burnout. And it was during that open space time that I began to explore some other things. I kind of went down a human design rabbit hole, which was great because I'm a projector. So resting was my key out of burnout. And then I did some other exploration until I literally had this moment where I knew it was the Akashic Records and it dropped in like kind of like a womp is the only way I can explain it. Like I just knew. So claircognizance is one of my highest clairs, and I just knew that the Akashic Records and I were meant to be. And then I just said yes from there and started exploring. And then I went through some pretty advanced training to get to where I am. What questions do you have?
Oh, I have so
about
many.
The Akashic Records.
I'm giving.
If you're not used to this space, yeah.
Yeah. So Sandra and I have a very dear friend of ours that does Akashic Records reading.
Amazing.
I have not been through the process myself. So tell me what it would look like to sit across from you or sit with you and have you help read someone's records. Like what could somebody experience?
Yeah. It totally depends on the person, what they experience. It's not just a conversation, although I would say it has the depth and intimacy of therapy. And that kind of integrity line for me, and that you're never going to hear me tell like specific stories about my clients, right? I'm going to generalize because it's amazing how quickly you can get very deep and very true. And so people come with maybe between 2 and 4 questions like that they prepare in advance to ask the Akashic Record keepers. I have a guide that I provide for, kind of getting to the types of questions. But they are mostly about whatever isn't working in their life right now, what they want to move beyond. And then we open their records. And then I ask the questions of the record keepers. And for the entire time that I'm speaking, I'm really just giving the information that the record keepers are giving me and checking in with the client, how it responds to them. People get a ton of somatic responses like heat, tingling, all those things that are common in deep energy work happen. A lot of people cry. A lot of people sometimes cry even before they've asked any questions, just as soon as the Akashic field opens, because being in that high vibration in and of itself is very, very healing. It's also consent based, so I'm not going to clear something like without the consent of the client. So that's very important. And then there's a number of different ways to clear things. The Akashic Record keepers often will give a visualization for me to walk the client through, even though they could heal it instantly. Because we are humans and we have our brains, we need to anchor into our brains to keep the belief that this has been cleared and unblocked. So that's a typical way that they will do clearings within a reading is through visualizations. I also do group clearings too. So like I have a workshop coming next week at a local place, and you open the records of a group and can do I'll probably do a clearing on being seen and heard because that's so common. So you can also do clearings that way as well. Nothing is ever coincidental in the Akashic Records too. Sometimes, you start one place and then the client ends up talking about something that happened 20 years ago that they thought was cleared, but it's tied to what's actually blocking them right now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of intention based, but also seeking an answer and getting those answers that will help them.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes just the answer of that divine truth is clarity enough to bring them into deep understanding of like what their kind of most circular patterns are.
Mhm.
Um, because it's very different than what do I want to say? It like hits people in their hearts in a very different way because it really is information that's coming from their souls. And so their souls recognize truth when it's heard.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
And how did you get your records read the first time?
How did I get my records read the first time? Gosh, do I even remember who read my records? So
Mhm.
I started reading my own records. I
Did
didn't
you?
go and have an Akashic reading that triggered all of this. I started reading my own records. And then I slowly started practicing on like some very close friends um, before I started my formal training. And then you end up reading for, everybody in those classes and a billion other people.
Love that.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Sarah, how your family has kind of met you in this transition.
Yeah.
Great question.
I mean, beautifully, the faith that my husband, and we've been together for 25 years, has shown in me is incredible. Um, I am very lucky in that, you know, I pivoted hard and differently, um, and was supported every step of the way.
Mhm.
We both have always been talking in language of energy and a little bit more, well, why don't we just do this instead of this Western medicine thing? And the little story I always tell is like the first night I met my husband, he literally told me, I'm a little new agey. And I was like, me too. So we kind of started out that way together. I just didn't anticipate it would pivot into a career. Um, and he literally said to me, like, this was like last week, I really love who you're becoming.
Oh,
So my support in this house is unconditional. And I have twin daughters who are in high school, and they both beautifully, supportively make fun of my woo. Actually, I just saw him coming off the bus there out the window. And I mean, you must know, like when you change your perspective of the world, it absolutely can hit your children in a beautiful way. And so they can see conditioning, like they can see the boxes that their schooling or friends are trying to place them in really easily. And I'm
Mhm.
going to take
yeah.
some credit for that.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah,
question.
what a great tool for young people to be able to
Mhm.
see and decide,
Yeah.
consent to participating in that belief for themselves, because I don't know that I had that perspective and that ability to see it till much later. And many of the women that we talk to, such as yourself, Sarah, on a weekly basis, have a big thing that happened to them, right? So yours, burnout.
Yep. Yep.
I had a boss's boss that was a mean girl. You know,
Ugh.
so we have these big, I don't know if they're epiphanies, but they're awakenings, right? They're like when we started to see something clearly for the first time as though we hadn't been
Mhm.
wrapped up in it for multiple years.
Yep,
Um,
absolutely.
and I love that your daughters are seeing clearly right now for themselves
Yeah,
at a younger age that that
yeah.
doesn't fit me.
They also always have, like, their empathy and tapped inness is pretty much been there since the start as well. But I also think this maybe brings up an interesting other point is I think when women, especially in midlife, um, have some kind of big shift in their life or a straight up spiritual awakening, there's this narrative that you're going to lose people, that
Mm,
you are going to have like big shifts in who you are with and who supports you. Um, and for me and like the colleagues I now have in this field, that has not been true. Like, I think the opposite happens. What has happened is people that I would not have anticipating supporting this work are coming to me with such curiosity, acquaintances. And so I think that narrative of like, oh, you're going to spiritually awaken and not be supportive and you're going to lose all your family and friends. I don't think that's a good narrative that we should hold.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm always curious because it's not something, it's for a lot of the women that I speak to, it's something they've known for a really long time about themselves, but that they chose to keep hidden because they were afraid of opening up about it. And so I always like to ask, how did your family respond to it? Because there is so much, again, it's all about visibility. It's all about old wounds, some that we carry. And the patriarchy is, Annette and I often talk about the patriarchy is a thing. However, when women do that to each other, either through mean girl talk or through, really triggering our own witch wounds or persecution wounds, then we become the patriarchy. It's one thing for us to talk about it as, it's being done to me, but we are also propagating it when we don't, when we do certain things that are unsupportive. And so I just like to kind of do a gauge on where people are at.
Right. Well, and I think too, what I have found in starting a spiritual business is there is none of that mean girl culture. I just have not found it at all, whereas in prior career, maybe you get a little jealous of the person that got the title promotion and you didn't. And that can feel very jarring. Like, why am I jealous of this person? Like, they're actually an amazing human. But when you're in kind of an inequitable system like corporate, or my not-for-profit was amazing, but they also kind of had this corporate structure box around it. It is still competitive. Like, the system is set up for that kind of like competitiveness. And so it's harder to step out of into that really like unconditional women to women support. And it's interesting too, because I think that under the surface, I expected to have that little bit of competitiveness like running through. And so I had an instant of like, I almost expected it. Like a different spiritual practitioner did something online and I was like, "Oh." And then turned around and like directed it as extreme support to me. And I went, "Okay, what's going on that I expected it to be this like mean girl competition type thing, right?" And so when that happens, I go into my Akashic Records and they tell me why and I clear it all out or whatever. But it's been so beautiful to not be abutting that anymore and just have this kind of like unconditional support of we're all doing the work together, just in different forms. And so the world needs a billion Akashic record readers or whatever the other helpful modality is, because everybody gets to choose the modality that helps them the most.
Yeah.
I just kind of went off on a big
No, I think it's beautiful. And I think I try, in our introduction, I said, I bring the woo to the conversation. I do. Right. But I'm also conscious that some people, the woo is kind of like not something that they're comfortable talking about. And so, we can talk about competition, which is a form of scarcity, right? If I get it, you don't, right? And if you get it, then I don't. And or we can just say, I want to live in abundance and, recognize that there's more for all of us, right?
Well, and there's enough for all of us, right?
and
Those
there's enough.
scarcity, the belief that there is not enough for everyone is scarcity. Like, talk about a collective burden.
Right.
There's
Yes.
so many money wounds that are running through, and lack, and like, feast or famine patterns that happen. And a lot of times whenever I help people with that, it's like, it's not theirs. Like, it's just literally not theirs, but it's still running through. If we have ever taken a vow of poverty in a past life, it's still running. So if you were ever a nun and you had your needs met, and had no need for money, but like vowed never to have, because you're just living bare bones and giving everything you have to the religious system, that's still running. And so you have to go back and break those vows. I brought it back to the woo again. Sandra, you were doing so good. Like,
No,
getting big and
I love
talking
this
about patterns.
but I love this. And what I wanted to acknowledge is that corporate is set up in a competitive way, right?
Yes.
Corporations are set up that in a competitive way because they're competing for, with other companies. And so, yes, they do it internally. They do it within the marketplace. I mean, marketing is, dealing in the world of scarcity, right? You need this, right?
And even, I wasn't in corporate, I was in not-for-profit, which was beautiful, but there's scarcity there because everybody's competing for the same funding and believes there isn't the same funding.
Yes.
And the thing that often I see happening there is, you are supposed to be so selfless to the broader mission that whatever the not-for-profit has, that you're expected to self-sacrifice time and time and time again at your own expense, of resources, right? Because people at not-for-profits are chronically underpaid, and that's supposed to be okay because you're doing the helping work, but it's not okay.
We have a friend who actually spoke in our networking group yesterday.
Yeah.
And she focuses on nonprofits.
Yeah.
And so she spoke about specifically that issue of, and especially right now, everybody is so exhausted and burnt out.
Absolutely.
And because we're trying to do so much with so little, everybody who wants to do good in the world creates a new nonprofit organization rather than, finding one that they can support and do work collaboratively with. It's a really interesting world.
It is an interesting world. Yeah, I mean, I definitely got exhausted at my nonprofit, but I also think, and to their credit, some of the new leadership that came in around the time I was leaving, I know was trying to kind of top down really do some great cultural change work. But the exhaustion gets glorified, right?
Yes.
I'm so busy. How are you?
Yeah.
I'm so busy. I can't tell you how many times I heard that. Now when people ask me how I am, I take a minute and I tune in to how I really am before I answer that question. Because like, life's supposed to be a lot easier. Owning a business is actually easy when you're in alignment with it, but nobody says that because it's kind of not culturally accepted to say, well, how's it going? Everything's going great. Like, people don't say that. We micro trauma bond about everything that's going wrong.
Yeah. Which is also scarcity, right?
Yes.
that you can't have anything you didn't work super hard for, or you have to go through it to come out the other side, like all these socialized stories that we're taught and then buy into because we don't always know that there's another option.
Yeah, and it's the opposite. Like working hard does not work for me. It's not the way I'm designed to operate.
You are not. What kind of a projector are you?
I'm a 2 force planet projector.
Okay.
With a right angle cross of explanation.
I love it.
I love it too. I love it. It's been a good permission slip language to get to know myself is kind of how I went down the human design path and just am able to take from it just we're wired and designed very, very differently. And then when you tune into that, things are easier. So yeah. I don't know, Sandra, when I said my type, what came through your mind?
So I do human design readings. And actually when I got really into human design, I actually went back to my first love of astrology. I've always been fascinated by astrology.
I'm an Aquarius.
And what's your North Node?
Hold on.
It's okay.
So no.
Annette, I think you're a 2-4.
You think I don't have my chart?
I'm a 2-4, yes, but I'm a generator.
Oh, okay.
And I'm an Aquarius too.
Yay! Oh, wait, that's my Gene Keys profile.
I always just ask Sandra. I'm like, Sandra, is this what I am? And she's like, yes.
So,
I never remember.
My North Node is Sagittarius.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I've got a lot of Aquarius. My Sun and Moon and Mercury are all in Aquarius. So
very interesting. Yeah, I love human design. One of the things that I really one of the things that I found so helpful about human design is it really opened up for me personally those areas where I have experienced significant conditioning, meaning where I have been forced to adapt to behave in a way that is not in alignment with who I truly am designed to be. So when I talk about conditioning, that's what I'm talking about for anybody who has no experience with human design. And what I loved about that is I realized I'm doing all of these things because other people told me that's who I needed to be. And the reason they feel difficult for me, or the reason people respond to me when I'm doing those things in a way that is not helpful for me personally, is because they're not mine. They're not me. It's everybody else's crap. So I like to call it OPC, other people's crap. And I find that once people really understand, oh, this isn't me. This isn't who I really am. I can let this go. That is so helpful.
It's so helpful. And I also think that, so much of that conditioning holds us to a standard that isn't in alignment for our uniqueness in the world, right? Whether you have the language of human design for the uniqueness, or you are knowing what your soul's purpose is, and it's very different than what you thought it would be or what the standard is. And so I sometimes see a lot of like other coaches, or when you're scrolling Instagram, they're actually like trying to fix a person to a standard of that person that isn't even their own. And so I think that's really important from the starting point of any coaching or helping, is that you're not leading any guidance to what your guidance is. And maybe I'm stating the obvious, but it's with Akashic work, it's the soul that's leading. With human design, it's the design that's leading, or an amalgamation of both, whatever the language the client is talking in. But I think that's so important. Like sometimes you're trying to fix something that's like not at all broken at all.
No one's broken.
No, there is no such thing as broken or
But
stuck.
we're taught that we are broken.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And that how is this
fun to talk to? Huh? How is what?
I was asking Annette how this is all sitting for her.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it. I'm so interested in hearing what other people do because I see women so frequently just trying to fit into where they think they belong. And there's a lot of fear on going outside of that and really going after what they really want. Mm-hmm. And often they've put that actual desire, that actual passion, that actual want, they've like put it away, and sometimes for a really long time. And so to get people to come into that and say, I'm ready to really figure out what's for me, especially related to work, especially related to careers, or going back to another corporate job when that's really not what they want, but there's too much blocking in their minds the path to do what they want, do something like we've all done, which has been able to step outside of a corporate career.
Well, that's why I love working at the intersection of both like with the mind, but then beyond the level of the mind, because so many people have the desire for something different and immediately the brain stops them because they don't know how they're going to do it or get there. And so they're stopping themselves before they even get to live in the dream of what's possible, which I find heartbreaking.
It can be. It really can.
Yeah.
Well, great. Sarah, tell everybody how we can stay connected with you. Yay. Or how we can find you.
Yes. So people can follow me on Instagram at Boxless Coaching. The other thing maybe to mention is, sign up for my newsletter. I go deep every Friday and I channel basically a word of the week to help people expand. So that's how I communicate with my collective. And then you can also find my services online at boxless.cohere.live. That's where you can book an Akashic healing session or soul emergence coaching. So that's where I am at the world.
I love that.
Just email me. If I always say there's no coincidences too. Right. If this has sparked anything in you and anybody that's listening just is like, I need to talk to Sarah more and I don't know why. Great. I'd love to hear from you. DM me, or I'm sarah@boxless.me.
Okay.
Easily findable in the world.
And you had an offer for anybody listening?
So I have a free gift for people. So I was talking before about how we can do group healings. I have something that is a guided Akashic clearing on healing your own birth wound. And so this came about because I had several clients right in a row that needed a birth healing, and the kind of bigger wound patterning that it tied into is so many people feel unwanted, a deep in their bones, I am not wanted in this planet. And so that it's, 20 minutes or so, guided Akashic healing. If there's any birth stories that you've been told, or if you kind of have that feeling of I'm not wanted and I don't know why, then that's a great clearing for you.
Thank you. That is so generous. I'll make sure that gets in the description box of the episodes, and then I'll come back when we're done being live and we'll put it in the chat there as well. Great. Sarah, it was so great to have you come into this space.
Thank you so much.
And share with us. And we look forward to talking with you again soon.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on this episode of Exposing the Hidden Reality. If something hit home or made you snort laugh, tell us.
Seriously, we love hearing from you. Message us, tag us, or send us coffee. We love coffee.
And hey, leave a review. It helps more women find us and boosts our egos.
Which are like fragile, like suspiciously fragile.
True. All right, until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and if all else fails,
Blame the dog.
See you next time. Wait, did we stop recording?
No, we're still here. You have to push the red button.
Red button. Cool. Just eternal podcast.
Bye.
Bye.